indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we need to begin with an appointment of the clerk pro tem. I'm looking for a motion that the Board of Education appoint Alicia Coster as clerk pro tem for the purpose of taking the minutes of this meeting in the absence of the district clerk. Art? Marge? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Moving on, comments from the public on agenda and non-agenda items. The Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that we can better understand your views. Please be aware that individual student information or particular personnel issues will not be discussed by this board during public session. When recognized by the board president, please state your name and address. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers will be notified by the board president when their time has expired. When speaking, the public shall direct their comments to the board and not district staff or other audience members. Speakers shall not expect board members to answer questions during public comment. Questions shall be referred to the superintendent for review, study, and response. If appropriate, the board may request the issue be a discussion item at a future Board of Education meeting or Board of Education committee meeting. Is there anybody here who would wish to address the board at this time? Okay, so no one. We are going to, you want to do that first? Okay, sure. Yep. So we're gonna, before we go to executive, we're gonna start with the ABCD awards as part of the congratulations and celebrations. So we will have a little something to read for each recipient, and we will award a little something, and we'll take a little photo op before everybody leaves. Okay? We will start.
The ABC Award is born from the board's sincere desire to acknowledge those employees of the Greater Johnstown School District who are nominated by the school community members because they go above and beyond the call of duty to make a difference in the lives of our students and help them succeed. The board and district administration are pleased to recognize 3 outstanding ABC Award winners. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Mr. Jose Gonzalez. He is employed through the HFM BOCES Transport Services as a bus driver and is assigned to routes in the Greater Johnstown School District, where families depend on him to keep their children safe as he delivers them to and from school on a daily basis. This is a role of undeniably importance, as Jose's work involves creating and maintaining a respectful, welcoming, and safe environment while negotiating the bus route, taking into account traffic flow, changing weather patterns, and children who vary in age, culture, experiences, and personal circumstances. The Greater Johnstown School District thanks Mr. Gonzalez for committing to this nominal task for going above and beyond the call of duty to cheerfully, reliably, and safely transport Johnstown students before and after school every day.
If you came sooner, you would have come during the applause. It's a little trick. Congratulations, Jose. Is there anything you'd like to say? You're welcome to.
Thank you, everybody, for in the district to nominate me. I'm honored to have this. I do love these kids. I love kids. I drove bus for 24 years. And I drove in front of the district. I drove in Schenectady district. And I've been around for.
And we finally retired you.
I'm not going to hang up my hat.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Don't go too far.
We're going to take a photo.
The next one we have is Mrs. Amy Hale. She is a secondary teacher at Warren Street Elementary School who takes the time to recognize the dignity and worth of each student in her classroom, nurturing them, acknowledging their individual achievements, and instilling a sense of pride as they progress. Recently, the district was contacted by a Johnstown family impacted by childhood cancer, who expressed appreciation for the kindness, compassion, and empathy Amy has shared with them, knowing that she has walked a similar path. The family also expressed appreciation for her assistance and support for their child's desire to develop a special goal day at school in order to bring awareness to childhood cancer. The Greater Johnstown School District thanks Mrs. Hale for going above and beyond the call of duty to foster inspiration, tenacity, and hope among the Johnstown students and families.
Thank you, Amy. Congratulations. You didn't want to say.
I'm very fortunate to work in this district. Everyone's so supportive, admin, families. I said it over and over, I can't imagine working anywhere else.
This is great. If you want to stay with us, we're going to take a group photo.
And finally, we have Miss Alex Thiessen, who is a pre-kindergarten teacher at Pleasant Lab, who demonstrates patience and compassion for her students, taking the time to notice not only their academic needs, but also their social needs. Alex will often message parents to let them know if the child had had a rough day at school and offer to help in any way that she can. She attends extracurricular activities outside of the normal school day to give children a boost of confidence, and she is known for providing books that students can keep at their own to read with their families. She genuinely wants to help students reach their full potential. The Greater Johnstown School District thanks Ms. Thiessen for going above and beyond the call of duty and caring for each and every Johnstown student in her care.
Is this here too? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome to say something.
Yeah, it's only my second and a half year, so I can't believe I already got this. I keep saying, oh yeah, I'm just saying, showing you that I'll be forever, and
You've come a long way.
thank you.
Just like they used to say in Virginia something.
Yeah.
You're too young to know that. Well, let's get a photo together. We take a good backup.
In this room, there is no good background, so.
Okay. Can you get us on?
Yep. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and briefly, we'd like to have a moment of silence for several former board members who passed in the last year. Those board members include Barbara Skoda, who served in 1981 to 1985, William Pollock, who served from 2002 to 2005, and as many of you may remember, was a longtime teacher here, and Richard McGuire, who served from 2000 to 2006. So I'd like to have a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Okay. So I think maybe we'll do
Yeah, sure.
no. All right. So we have a possible executive session subject to board approval. So I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session at 6:42 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular person and discussing collective negotiations pertaining to the union pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. Can I get a motion? Well, second, Jen? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. We will excuse ourselves. We'll turn to page 2 of our agenda, item 6, reports, and we'll begin with the superintendent's report.
Just a couple of program initiatives we've been working on. There's been a Zapata recently by Nicole Hampton, to sort of bring to fruition some ideas that Catholics had when we recognize that we've got students who are not identified as special education students necessarily, but have pretty significant behavioral difficulties. And that's just putting it very simple. But there's a lot to these students and children sometimes in terms of trauma and what they're coming to school with. And typically, they've been new students to us, or they've been new students to school. And they range from kindergarten all the way to 7th grade, let's say. And so what I've asked Nicole Hampton to do is put together just a few slides to share with you some of the thoughts that the cabinet are putting together right now in ways to support these students so that they're not having to stay in classrooms where the environment is not really helpful to them, nor is it conducive to the other students in the classroom. I would also add that some of these students, even if identified somewhere on that pathway, there's going to be no placement for them. There's no place, not in our school district, not OCs, not private placements. So once it gets to that, we can't guarantee that there's going to be placement. It's good for them. So we've come up with some ideas of ways to support these students looking into the future. There doesn't seem to be an end to this particular need. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to pass you out each a copy of this now. And I'll let Nicole talk a little bit here about some of these slides. I think we already have 3 students in some of these alternative programs that we're calling them, and they're fully vetted by the New York State Education Department. We have sometimes students looking at alternative programs, could be with the help of computer-assisted instruction, and one staff member. And our goal for them is to provide a day that they can be somewhat productive and get them to a place where they can actually learn and even get back in the classroom and be mainstream. So that objective on the front page is to provide this temporary alternative educational program and build up the students. The next sheet, couple sheets, I'd like Nicole to kind of talk to. One is called Student Response Team Year Data Summary.
And just a little bit more information in terms of why we're calling it alternative program. We really are looking at it more from the elementary and middle level perspective because we do have alternative placements that we can put students into at the high school level. But where we're really finding the issues is at the elementary level where they need a lot of support with regulating skills and structure of a school in some cases. And unfortunately, the trauma that some of our kids are experiencing is impeding their ability to academically be successful in the classroom. So the student response team data, or SRT is what they call themselves, that's a group of staff members that are SEAL support, so counselors, social worker, principal, guidance counselors or counselors, and also some different selected staff that are on those teams. Total to date between just our elementary and our middle school building, we've had 254 SRT calls for support from a classroom where a student was involved in some type of crisis behavior. We've had 287 drop-in counseling, so this is not the counseling that we offer to students already as like building level counseling or IEP counseling. This is a student who has shown a need and needs to speak to someone immediately or within 24 hours. So that's the drop-in counseling, so they aren't on an official caseload yet. total minutes that our SRT are spending on working with these students in crisis is 5,757 minutes. And then we've already had 15 risk assessments done this year across the district, and this is pre-K through 12. And risk assessments are a threat against the school, suicidal threat, or any other threat that they might be making that could harm themselves or others. So substantial trauma, I would say, that we're experiencing. We're not the only ones in New York State or across the country that are experiencing this. I think we have a great team that is trying to be forward-thinking, so that we're keeping kids safe, but also giving them the same type of opportunity that any other student would have. Because right now, there's no placements out there to put them, and we also can't just keep identifying kids as special ed because our numbers are going up higher and higher. And a lot of the kids that we're seeing aren't actually special ed criteria or would not qualify for special education. It's just that they have inability to be regulated in a classroom environment. So Dr. Krienshaw did talk about, we do have 3 students currently that we're kind of piloting with current staff that we have by creating unique schedules for them, or letting them have the flexibility of choosing when they go into a classroom environment, when they don't go into a classroom environment. We also have students that are on a remote learning platform, but are not successful in a classroom, so they are coming to school and still doing class work and getting educated that way. So we have unique platforms that we can use, and we have the ability to come up with these alternative approaches to kids without having to send them out of district, which will cost us even more money to do that. So a little bit about that. The next page is a little bit about student characteristics or things that we're seeing with our pre-K, and I wouldn't even say it's pre-K, I would say it's K through 7 currently. That difficulty regulating emotion, so they get really easily frustrated and angry, and sometimes they'll tip the tables, they'll throw things, they'll destroy a classroom. New York State is also really talking to us about changing the way that we think about discipline, and so they're really looking at that K-3 level and having us look at suspension rates differently, because a child in that developmentally does not understand out of school suspension and school suspension. It's not going to change their behavior because they don't understand. Where if we were to suspend a high schooler, we can have a better conversation about a suspension versus a kindergartner.
Another really important factor with that too is when you look at these children who are displaying these unsafe behaviors, I would say 99% of them are coming from unsafe situations, and that's why they're behaving this way. So by sending them home, we're putting them back into the environment where they're trying, that's causing these behaviors, so they're not safe there. So unfortunately, keeping them here with us is the best thing we can do, even though it's so challenging.
And that last box, if you're looking all the way to third column, bottom one, they're resorting to their maladaptive behaviors in school that are actually survival skills in their home. And so when you think of a child learning a new behavior, it takes 10 times longer for them to replace that behavior. And so we've got a lot of undoing that we need to do too, but if they're constantly going back into that environment, it's reinforcing that behavior too for them. So we're more than an academic institution at this point in time. And our supports that we have out of district and in our community are limited. We are working as closely as possible to the Mental Health Association, St. Mary's Hospital, where else do we work with? Captains, kind of charities, but they just don't have the level of support. We have kids on wait lists to get outside counseling that are 8 months long until they can see their first person. Some of the other characteristics are we have kids that are going through med changes and they haven't been able to adjust to that. So we have major mental health and trauma issues that we're seeing, elopement, deficits in just being able to communicate, sensory issues, and then it's just the basic Maslow's hierarchy. Their basic needs are not being met at this point in time, so we have a lot of food insecurities as well, where kids want to eat all day long in their classroom, and it's not something that we can always provide them. So these types of alternative programs would give them those basic needs. A lot of times we have kids that will sleep for the first 2 hours of their time in school because they aren't getting enough sleep at home either. So some characteristics there, and then the classroom characteristics, we're really looking for a flexible education program that's still meeting our standards, but providing them what the students need. We would have specialized training for those staff, really looking at a trauma-informed classroom, and then intensive SEL support. So we have a good level of support with our SEL staff that they could be providing proactive response to these children in that type of an environment versus reactive, which we are doing when we're doing an SRT call. And then what we're thinking in terms of staffing needs is certified teacher, a teaching assistant, and then the SEAL staff to support that. And really why we want a certified teacher is to kind of help with the fact that we can use them as a teacher of record still, and they would be able to provide that, the same level of education that any other student would be getting. And then the teaching assistant can help us too by then transitioning kids back into classroom. These are not meant to be a death sentence to a student in any way, shape, or form. It's really a temporary placement. We really get them to be regulated and be able to feel success in the classroom.
And I think death sentence is the wrong connotation. I think because I do think that these alternative placements that we have, the programs that we're working with students now, and they're starting to flourish. And so that's a good thing. And we don't have many students doing it, but we have to recognize as a district, and I think you could ask any superintendent in the state or across the country right now, I think we're in a real time of transition. And what I'm asking the board to support at some point soon is this alternative educational program rather than simply suspending a student when their behaviors are off the wall, because the state ed department, everybody in the world, is asking us to keep students in school, not send them to worse environments at home, to undo what we're trying to do in the first place, to teach them to the standards, and to get all this done in the course of the day. And I would argue, I've been part of these things, not as much as probably people would like, but there are principals in this room right now. They come to school and their entire day is spent on one student. Not to mention, everybody else at the table, and that can't happen. So we have to have other supports for these students. And I don't necessarily need you to comment, but you're welcome to comment on this particular thing. I just wanted you to kind of have a heads up. Again, something concrete is coming.
Just a quick question. What does the acronym SEAL stand for?
Social, emotional, academic learning, SEAL team. So that includes just over 10 of our staff, maybe as many as 14, are psychologists, school counselors, behavioral specialists, social workers. We have good teams in place, but they're the ones that are going to help support these programs and these students.
I guess I have a question too about how it would look. You mentioned K through 7. So, is this a classroom in each building? Is this, okay, so it's more than one classroom. So this is not just one certified teacher and teaching assistant and SEAL staff. This is
It potentially could look like a separate space with a certified teacher, a TA, and the SEAL team, in a regular diet of support. It could look like that in each building. Right now, we've been able to cover this by sort of extracting that student with teaching. You could explain it
with a TA, yeah.
With a TA who's under the direction of the teacher. But I can see a time coming for some of these students who have no other options.
In addition, though, if there are no students that are in those placements at that time, then we would use them as in other areas, which we always need extra support supporting our kids, but also New York State came out with a new regulation around tutoring for students that are out of school for either homebound instruction or suspension, long-term suspension, that type of thing, and it has to be a certified teacher now, and we're really struggling finding tutors that can do that. So and a lot of families want the tutoring to be done during the school day and not outside of the school day, and all of our staff are working, so to pick up that extra time, it would have to be after 2:30, 3 o'clock for them to pick up that tutoring as well.
And I don't necessarily think we're asking to add teachers. I think maybe rethinking how we do things a little differently. For example, instead of an AIS teacher in kindergarten, maybe that's how we redistribute some of those resources. So I'm not looking for a bank here, but we have to come up with some sort of solution, which we don't have totally figured out yet, but we do for several of our students, and they seem to be responding well.
I really think the key of the success is really, it's gonna look different in each building, it's gonna look different with each individual kid. So a lot of questions we can't always answer because what we're doing with one child is gonna look vastly different from what we're gonna do with another child, and what we're doing today is gonna look vastly different than what we're doing in 2 weeks with that child. So there's gonna be a lot of flexibility and a lot of attention paid to those children so they can be successful.
So do you have a time frame for this? Are we talking this academic year, next academic year, 5 years down the road?
I think we're talking about this academic year. I think definitely next academic year. But I'm just going to be, simple and plain. We were hit with a lot of surprises this year. We were hit with surprises by kids who were coming in without any grade level expectations whatsoever, without any indication of how to interact or behave in a school setting. You heard me say it last year too, but at that time, the state wasn't also suggesting strongly that we halt our suspension, especially for our youngest students. And so we're just coming to this realization. We've inherited 11 students from a new facility that opened, the Friendship Lodge, which I toured the other day. I have a lot of good things to say about it. But those students, they have some real deficits as well. We're just seeing it mounting. We're getting a real transient group more than ever. I think the time frame could be this year, maybe a couple of pilot situations, maybe at Pleasant, maybe at Warren Street. And then maybe next year, maybe we'll look at something for each school or wherever those students have the need. But now that we have the students, I think we have a better idea of who we're getting and what we need to do for them. We just can't continue in the same pathway where the principal's day is completely taken up in these situations. And I don't think BOSES is planning to add any. And these are students who aren't necessarily special education students. Sometimes they're cognitively very, very capable, but their emotional regulation just is not going to be there. And ask a teacher, any teacher, how easy it is to marginalize their 23 students while they attend to 1 or 2 students who have these significant needs. It's not easy to get those students taught either. So. And what I could do for you is give you a more firm and concrete idea of the pilot. Right now, what we've got is just kind of conceptual charting the course.
I think
to this point,
conceptual level, I think I'm buying into the idea. You got to do something. You can't continue to foster a disruptive environment. But I think the rest of us will just be interested in the details as you start pulling together. So keep us posted on.
for sure.
Then when you get to concrete, you can come up with the financial impact of it.
I think that's our next step. We had a really great long cabinet meeting last week. I think we discussed this, and this is what we came up with.
I think at a high level, it sounds like a very promising program.
So I think, Art, to your question too, I think part of financial analysis is our SEAL team and Nicole and Nikki keep such good data that a pilot will help inform some of this analysis, but some of the things that we'll include are if we support our students at a younger age, it's that cost avoidance for future years as well. So if we were looking at placements later on in the grade level, what are some of the costs we may be able to avoid by having this targeted direct support now versus pushing it off to where maybe eventually the students are being classified or being placed alternatively. So we can make that part of the financial analysis piece too.
Very good. Item number 2 here, board docs implementation. So Lorena does such a beautiful job on our agendas right now. We know where to find policies. So our agendas, all the attachments that you now received, will fit into this web-based platform called Board Docs. Many school districts use it, and now that we know, we need to have a succession plan for that work that Lorena does. We need to place also the house our policies. When they are updated, they go directly to Board Docs. All the evaluation systems are linked directly to Board Docs, so the superintendent's evaluation, the board self-evaluation, all of that right there. I just wanted to let you know, I'm setting March 1st as kind of an implementation date. And so we may want to have a little workshop at some point just to learn how to use that. And I think the folks at Board Docs would like that too.
I'm not gonna lie. Managing this every month is good and short.
Yeah, and this is a pretty intuitive thing too. I think if you all had a Chromebook, Austin, and hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but if you all had a Chromebook for your meetings, you'd have everything right there at your disposal too. Item 3, I wanted you to know the community walking and swimming program here at the district. Brian is scheduled out for the next 7 months. So it looks like we'll have a walking program for folks inside Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. For the next several months. And then the swim program would start Saturday mornings in December and January, 9 to 11 a.m. And then Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 6 to 8 p.m., including those Saturday mornings in late February, March, April, and May. So it's just getting back to this community swim program, inviting mostly seniors to walk inside of our school building, Warren Street, particularly. Budget, December, next month's budget workshop coming up at 6 o'clock. It's the administrative portion of the budget. If you want to know exactly what we're trying to do, you can take a look at that budget calendar again and plan is all there. We met with Leslie Nishwan, I thought I didn't know how to say her name, from National Grid. She informed us quite a bit about how the infrastructure and equipment for electric buses is going to be funded through either National Grid or NYSERDA. So I have a lot of information about that. We talked a little bit about how that could dovetail with our potential solar project, and everything from the installation of EV chargers, kinetic chargers, pavement that is going to be constructed, inside or outside bus storage. It's not really our concern, but it's all part of the picture that we're learning about. I know BOCES is going to take a look at contracting with a study. But each district in our BOCES study will look a little bit different because we all have different needs. And as I said before, I did take a trip with Alicia to the Full Friendship Lodge. I was pretty encouraged. It was promising and I thought surprising. The amount of supports they actually have there planned into the program there. And we have an ongoing relationship plans we're putting together every so often. We currently have students, we have 5-year-olds, we have 4-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 17-year-old, 11-year-old, 15-year-old, 8-year-old, 14-year-old, 10-year-old. They all, this just runs the gamut. And the number of supports that they are going to need are pretty extensive. But at least they have supportive home to go back to go to, and it was very encouraging. I haven't talked to you at all. You guys know about it, so it was pretty eye-opening. Tomorrow we'll celebrate school-related professionals day. That's another one who's not necessarily a teacher. So we'll send out a nice message from the board and administration of that night. If there are any questions, the rest is free.
Great, thank you, Dr. Chuck. Next up, we have an employee leadership report from JTA. Okay, all right, Mrs. Fagan, take it away.
Thank you. Just calling in from Nancy tonight. October of each year is designated as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Across the country, individuals demonstrate their support for those fighting, those who have succumbed, and those who are survivors. The Johnstown Teachers Association is no stranger to supporting strides this year, as in each year prior. JTA members donate not just educators and this local teachers union who support Making Strides, but also NICET. This year alone, NICET members raised over $275,000 for Making Strides. Breast cancer strikes our sisters, our mothers, our aunts, our spouses, our neighbors, our friends, co-workers, and even male family and friends. We all look forward to a time when we can say we no longer have to worry about this disease. Until then, teachers in Johnstown, across the state, and across the country are doing what they can to help with that. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I do have a brief board report I wanted to offer. So this past month, very end of October, myself, Marge Klein, and Dr. Crankshaw had an opportunity to attend the NISBA conference in Buffalo. This is something that I think is finally kind of back in the swing after a pause during the COVID years, and I would say that there was a considerably higher level of attendance this year than what I witnessed last year. And I just wanted to bring it out that if anybody has an opportunity to do this in the future, board members, it's probably something you should consider doing. There's a range of topics that you can learn about. You get to meet other board members from other districts, get to learn what they're dealing with. A lot of it is very similar to what we deal with. A lot of it is very different from what we deal with. But it's a great opportunity to share ideas and start to understand maybe the larger context under which we're all kind of operating right now. Marge, do you want to add anything? Or?
No, I just wanted to talk about some of the sessions that I attended. One of the more notable ones that I attended was just a presentation about a project that students, there was an ELL teacher and a social worker that kind of developed this special project with some migrant students where they could tell their story from where they traveled from, whether it was like Colombia or El Salvador or something. And some of them walked, some of them flew on a plane, but they all were able to tell their story, make an art project about it. And this was Hampton Bays, I believe, was the school district down in Long Island. And they have a significant Hispanic population and then a pretty significant migrant population as well. And so they told me stories about from these students, and they had photos that they took with the art project in front of their face, so they weren't identified in any way. There was a visual element to it. It was displayed in the school just to kind of give other students and people walking through the school a really good connection to these students that may be marginalized otherwise. I cried like 4 times listening to the presentation about it, but that was really good. I sat in another session that was about implementing communications plans, and I know Dave sat in some diversity sessions, and so there was like a wide range of topics. There was a lot of electric bus sessions as well. I wish I could have gone back and gone to as many as possible, but I learned a ton.
Thank you. And to that point, I mean, there really is a session for every interest. I mean, if you have a focus on finance, you can learn about finance. If you have a focus on programming, you can learn about that. Buses, yes, you can sit in bus seminars all day long if you like. God help you if that's your interest. All right, so moving on from there, we have a few committee reports, but I don't have that one. So we have the personnel, facilities, and whatever you want to do. I'll need to be facilities and
This is personnel.
This is personnel? Okay. Yeah, so for personnel, did we meet? We met on October 18th. We discussed that the end of federal funding is coming up with regard to the continuation of some staffing. The administration team is recommending continuation of certain positions, such as the Dean of Students at Orange Street, Community Outreach Specialist, Social Worker, potentially 11 full-time equivalent teachers, 2 TAs, 2 aides, a head custodian, and a school secretary. The most recent additions to the above also recommended for continuation would include additional health teacher at Johnstown High School, a social worker at Johnstown High School, head custodian at Knox, a psychologist at Knox, school counselor at Pleasant, school nurse at Pleasant, and school resource officer. Careful and thorough analysis will be conducted to determine which position will be retained and how the budget needs to be structured. We wean ourselves off the federal grants and apply normal budgeting to sustaining significant need positions. There was a SAPATA for personnel that was identified. A recommendation to create a chaperone manager role to coordinate chaperone activities, training, and personnel assignments, targeting a $2,600 stipend. A 10-month position, and we currently have 25 authorized chaperones available for assignment. So having somebody to kind of coordinate all that would be probably a good idea. CSEA negotiations. The intended start of negotiations was supposed to be November 2nd. That ended up falling through due to some changes of leadership on the union side. Selected 3 employees for the ABCD award nominees. We met this evening, and next meeting is Wednesday, January 17th, 2023. I guess I get to read these. New business reserve plan. This is for the Audit, Budget, and Finance Committee. Reserve plan considerations and strategy. We reviewed the 2023-24 planned use and projected balances. Long-range capital financial plan was reviewed. We're looking to open a new capital reserve fund for $10 million to fund potential large capital projects around 2027-28. We need to close the 2010 capital reserve fund. We're proposing to use of the 2021 capital construction reserve fund $5 million to fund a small capital project in the near future. We have a medium capital project planned to start construction in the summer of 2024. The EPC, which is the energy performance contract for the solar project, is targeting a May 2024 referendum. The large capital project planning has not yet started. We are targeting a November 2026 referendum for that, so planning will be getting underway in the coming years. We reviewed the constitutional debt limit. For those who may have been paying attention on election day, there was a referendum placed on the ballot for debt limit change due to the small city school districts had a limit of 5% limit on assessed value for the borrowing. This was to double that debt limit. That law passed. Quarterly reports for July, August, September were postponed until the December BOE meeting. The transportation for 2024-25 was updated. The SDM ad hoc committee is being reconvened to solidify recommendations to the superintendent, reviewing utilization of BOCES transportation services versus changing service management beginning in 2024-25. That means potentially outsourcing to a private company. And then the district is studying and learning about the electrification of bus fleets, something that still needs a lot of research. So the next committee meeting will be Wednesday, December 13th at 6 o'clock. And the review of the administrative component of the budget will happen coming up here, I think, in December. Okay. And then lastly, the facilities committee. We had an update on the status of projects. Pleasant Ave paving is tentatively scheduled for the week of Thanksgiving. Small capital project was not able to include the full Knox fencing restoration. We're able to apply a small amount of balance, however, for researching and modeling fencing options. So if you've noticed, there's a couple of sections of wrought iron fencing missing in the Knox fence. Those sections were taken by a specialist to kind of test what's going on, what's the best way to either restore or rebuild the sections of fencing. And we would look to do that work as part of a separate small project in the near future. Closing out our small capital project in December, the medium capital project was submitted to SED for review. The energy performance contract project was submitted to SED as well. Smart Bond project has been continuing to be completed and will be targeting completion by January 1st, 2024, and mostly involves the completion of security improvements. Excuse me. Beginning planning for another $100,000 capital outlay project for 2024-25. For those who recall, that's the program that allows us to get significant reimbursement if we stick under $100,000 of expenditure. Excuse me. Planning another small capital project of $5 million limit. We are considering state contract acquisition of a new Knox scoreboard. We are considering plans to improve Briggs Field in the near future. I'd say there's a number of ideas on the table for that. We have the energy performance contract solar project. It is lagging behind on the feasibility study side, and we're asking the vendor Renovus to provide a concrete update with a completion plan. And timing for a referendum as originally planned is compromised at this point. So we discussed briefly some new business and long-range capital planning and building conditions survey study will be coming up in the coming year. And this is a 5-year cycle and needs to get done, so we'll be getting that going with our architects. And the next meeting is December 12th at 6 p.m. That's it. Any questions about any of this? Okay. So moving along, no correspondence. So we'll go to the consent agenda. In an effort to expedite the business of the Board of Education, but in no way meant to diminish the importance of each item, consent agenda may be used for the items in this section. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one board member. Items not removed will be adopted by general consent without debate. Any removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the board. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, which includes section 6, A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and B and C. So for those of you following along in your agenda, that would take us from page 2 all the way through, I believe, the end of page 7.
May I ask for the consent action personnel schedule?
You certainly can. Anyone, the whole section?
Well,
Yeah.
it's probably easier, cleaner to do it that way, right?
Yep. All right, so B. Yep, we're going to take all of B out as a separate item. So, the, can I get a motion to, all right, well, second, Mark? Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Not only you're the school principal, but you're also the water deliverer there. Yeah, very much appreciate it. He's got a better temperament than I
Yeah.
So, all right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, we are unanimous. Okay, so then I would look for a motion to accept consent action item personnel in its entirety, unless anybody would wish to pull individual elements from them. Motion from Marge, do I have a second? Art? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, one abstention. Okay, so we have a few things. Huh?
Can we, make a motion, we have a consent agenda?
I'm open to that.
8, 1 through 7, and 9, 1 through 8. 1 through 8.
I believe we have a couple people here for too long.
Sure.
So we'll do 9, 1, and 2 separately.
What's the motion?
The motion is to move into consent agenda for action item business, which is section 8, 1 through 7, and then section 9, personnel 3 through 8, unless I'm missing something else. Okay. So, a motion to accept. Art, second, Will. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, thank you very much. So, section 9, action items personnel. We have a 10-year appointment of Nicole Lent, Director of People Personnel Services. Looking for a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent pursuant to education law and the provision of Part 30.3 of the Rules of the Board of Regents, and Nicole Lent, Probationary Director of People Personnel Services, be appointed to tenure in the Director of People Personnel Services tenure area. Nicole Lent was appointed on January 6, 2020 to the position of Director of Special Education, Pupil Services, and Special Programs. That title was later amended on July 1st, 2023 to Director of Pupil Personnel Services in the Greater Johnstown School District. Be it shown that Nicole Lent holds a valid New York State certificate to serve in the aforesaid tenure area. Be it further shown that the probationary period of Nicole Lent will expire on January 5th, 2024. And a motion to accept. Art, second, Jen. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor? All right, congratulations. Okay, next we have a 10-year appointment of Laura Schuttenberg, special education teacher. This is a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent pursuant to education law and the provision of Part 30.3 of the Rules of the Board of Regents, that Laura Schuttenberg, probationary special education teacher in the special education tenure area, having been appointed to such position on February 4th, 2021, be appointed to tenure to the position of special education teacher in the Greater Johnstown School District. Be it also shown that Laura Schuttenberg holds a valid New York State certificate to serve in the aforesaid tenure area. Be it further shown that the probationary period of Laura Schuttenberg will expire on February 3rd, 2024. So can I get a motion? Well, second, Jen. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we're unanimous. Congratulations. I know it's not as exciting as when you first get hired, but it is a cool achievement, so congratulations. All right. So, no, we included 8.
Eight.
Oh,
Actually,
8.
8.
This
Well,
takes-
Oh, I had a little boo-boo. Did I?
You were right. This one.
That's page 10.
Oh, shoot. All right, yeah. Okay. So modification and extension of employment agreement for Alicia Coster, Assistant Superintendent. I'm looking for a motion to extend the employment of Alicia Coster as Assistant Superintendent through June 30th, 2028, to approve a modified and extended contract of employment between the Greater Johnstown School District and Alicia Coster, dated November 20th, 2023, and retroactive to July 1st, 2023, to approve payment thereunder and authorizing the superintendent of schools to execute the same. Can I get a motion? Okay. Joe, second, Jen. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we have 5 against, abstain? Okay. Matt, you voted no? Okay, so 5-1. Okay.
Thank you.
Your weather's a little longer.
I'm here, I'm sticking
Okay.
around, thank you.
All right. Okay, did that capture everything?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, team. All right, so we have a little bit of board discussion. This is the continuation of policy manual audit, section 7000, policy 7410 through 7550, through November and December, and then coming up in January and February, policy 7610 and 7710. Any questions about any policies that anyone might be putting their eyes on? A few informational items. We have a facilities committee, December 12th at 6 p.m. at the district office. The Knox Winter Concert, one is at 7 p.m. at the Johnstown Performing Arts Center on that same evening at 7 o'clock. December 13th, we have the Audit, Budget, and Finance Committee at 6 p.m. at the district office. We have the JHS Winter Concert the same evening at 7 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center. December 14th, we have the Knox Winter Concert 2, 7 p.m. at the JFAC. And December 20th, we have the Warren Winter Choir Concert at 7 p.m. again at the JFAC. And then finally, we have our meeting, business meeting, December 21st, 6 p.m. at the JHS Media Center, which is going to be over there, right?
I'm sorry.
For the next month's business meeting?
We're actually gonna be here.
We're going to be here?
For now, yeah.
All right. So ignore what I just said. We're going to be here.
Yeah, we're gonna be in this room here.
Okay, so at this particular point, we have a possible executive session subject to board approval. I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session for the following purpose. That would be for the discussion of the employment history of a particular corporation and discussing collective negotiations pertaining to the union pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. Need a motion? Art, second. Will? Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, thank you very much. So everybody else is free